Welcome to another episode of Insider Knowledge. This week we have Laura Street, who is the head of social media at the TUG agency. So welcome, Laura. If you could just explain a bit about you and what you do.
Yeah, so I'm a head of social at the moment at TUG. Like you said, I usually contract, so don't necessarily stay involved that long. At the moment, it's a maternity contract, so it's probably going to be about a year. And I've worked in social media for probably as long as you could possibly work in social media. I've been doing it for about 13 years, I think. So when I started, you couldn't even use Instagram. There definitely wasn't TikTok, and Google. Google Plus was just becoming a thing.
Yeah, I remember Google Plus.
Yeah, which obviously didn't really last that long. So yeah, quite a long time for a social media person.
Brilliant. And I'm just looking through the TUG agency website at the moment, the place you're working with at the moment, because they've got quite a few big clients, likes of sort of Trivago, WWF, and sort of IKEA. How do you go about sort of working with those sort of clients? They're quite big fish to work with, aren't they?
Yeah, so TUG is a digital marketing agency. So we work on SEO, PPC, paid social, organic social. There's all different elements of it, and I lead the organic social and design team. So we don't necessarily work across all of those clients. We work with some of the ones you just mentioned. So it is quite a broad spectrum of clients. They're all quite different genres, I guess, different types of companies, but it's all about how you manage your day to day. And from a social perspective, it doesn't necessarily matter what the focus or what the subject matter is for that brand, as long as you understand how social media works, because you can always research things or gain a bigger understanding from the client. I think that we're quite a small agency relatively. In London there's 50 people, I think, and then we have offices in other cities around the world as well. But that means that you get a bit more of a personal approach. You get to know your team quite well, you get to know your client. As a TUG employee, you get to know the client quite well, and it's just about tailoring their requirements to what you can offer, I guess, and what's realistic for them and for you.
Yeah, definitely. What do you see some of the biggest challenges within this industry at the moment?
The challenge in the social media industry for me has always been that it's very fast paced. You always have to be on top of everything. There are new channels launching feels like every week, probably not every week, but at the moment a lot of people are talking about things like Be Real and Telegraph and things like that. And I think that the most important thing is to figure out what's the right channel for the brand. What's the right channel for either you or for your client, depending on how you're working. And making sure you're not stretched too thinly. So don't take on a channel that doesn't make sense for you. Don't try and overload yourself. If there's only one person that's got to update 4 channels, then make that realistic. Don't try and overwhelm yourself, because the content won't make the cut through, and it will be really exhausting to you. So it's not just about resizing images or reframing videos for different channels. It's actually thinking about, well, which channel is the right one for this client, and what does that look like? So what type of content works on that channel? This is a conversation I have a lot with clients at the moment, not necessarily people that know anything about social media nor claim to, but they say, well, why should we be on this channel? Should we be on TikTok? Is obviously quite a regular conversation at the moment. And no, you shouldn't be on TikTok if you haven't got the right content, if your brand doesn't fit, if you haven't got the budget or the manpower to make that happen. If you're going to take on a channel, you need quite a strong strategy for that, and you need to understand your audience and where they are. If you're trying to target, I don't know, if you were trying to target pensioners, for example, TikTok probably isn't the right platform.
Yeah,
if you're trying to reach teenagers, then you maybe should be looking at Snapchat and TikTok, and probably wouldn't bother with Facebook, because that demographic isn't really using that channel anymore. So it's a constantly evolving world of social, where you're trying to figure out the best way to go about things and the best channel for that. But that's what keeps it interesting, right? I don't know who does a job where everything's always the same. I think any job these days is pretty flexible, but social media in particular requires staying on top of news. I mean, we read social media news sites every day, and every day something different has been launched, or every day something else can happen that you need to know about, and your clients maybe need to know about too.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's so many people on social media nowadays posting up updates. I suppose it's quite easy to be lost in that crowd. Is there a common mistake you often see online, what people keep doing time and time again? Or is there anything advice that you currently give to your clients, for instance?
I think you make a good point. There's a lot of noise on social media and it's hard to make the cut through. So I think if you haven't got a strong brand presence and strong tone of voice, then maybe it's not, maybe you need to rethink about that before you take on social. I think quite a common problem is that people go, I've just got to get something up. I've got to get, I haven't updated, especially for small businesses. I haven't updated this channel for so long. I'll just put something up, and not really thinking about what's the best approach to that. What's the strategy behind that? What am I looking to achieve with that? And I think that's really an important factor in social is what you're doing about brand awareness? Is what you're doing trying to get people to your website? What is your ultimate goal from that? And therefore taking a minute. I mean, whenever we take on new clients, I always say we're not going to post the day after we take on the account. We're going to take time to build a robust strategy to make sure that we understand your channels. We don't want to rush and put something up that then ends up not being right and really ruins the whole vibe of the channel. I want to make sure that we understand everything about that. So we usually take the first month or at least the first 2 weeks to really delve into what does that look like and what are we trying to achieve with this before we get too far into it. And then the other thing that I think people don't really do that much, or maybe don't do that well, is community management. So they put up stuff but then they sort of walk away. Basically they say, well, I've posted on Facebook now, so that's that. It's really important that you engage with that audience. The whole point, I mean, it's called social media. Like, it's really important that you are on that channel and you're going, oh, they're talking about me and I need to be in that conversation. And whether that's replying to somebody or monitoring or just keeping an eye on things. Like, sometimes obviously you always get people that are going crazy on social that say things that are completely out there and maybe don't mean anything and are not based in any fact whatsoever. And I'm not necessarily suggesting you engage with every single person that talks about your brand, but make sure you've got an overview of what's going on and the sort of sentiment of those conversations, because things can escalate really quickly.
Definitely. I think it's more important to keep up with the audience nowadays. There's quite a busy crowd out there. As you got to look at your competition, I suppose, what they're doing as well. But I mean, some companies have got the best budgets in the world, and other companies don't have any budgets. I mean, I've worked at plenty of companies where I had to use every kind of free resource out there. But if I had like 10 times the budget I have now, is there any kind of avenue you'd sort of recommend to spend that on?
I don't know that you need a massive budget to make a good impact on social. I think you need a good team, and I guess that costs money. And you need a good agency if that's the route you want to go down. And I think agencies can be really beneficial, particularly when doing campaigns. Maybe you can manage the day-to-day social in-house, but having somebody that can have a broader picture of what's going on and what you need to be looking towards can be really, really helpful. And being reactive on stuff is really powerful. So having the right creative minds on that team and making sure they're checking socially. I mean, if you are, for example, I've worked in teams where it's down to the marketing manager to do the social media. So it's not their main priority. It's like another channel, basically.
Yeah.
And then your eyes are not on social all the time. You're drawn in other directions and you miss things, you miss opportunities. And I'm not saying that we're able to grasp every single opportunity because that's unrealistic, but there's definitely conversations we have as a team. We're looking at channels all the time. I think it's also important to have a mix of demographics on your team from different ages, different backgrounds, because everybody will use different channels in a different way. And I think that you can learn a lot from younger people in your team. I can't remember what you call it, like up mentoring or down mentoring or something.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's really like amazing because I've worked in social media for a long time, but there's plenty of features on social channels that I don't really use, like from a personal perspective, that then I talk to younger people in my team and they do use it. They use it day in, day out, and they're the people we're trying to reach for some clients. It's like, well, okay, we need to understand that. And equally for like older people as well. So what are they looking at? What channels are they using? What are the benefits to using those channels? And so just being quite broad in your approach, I think, is really important. So I think money can be used to employ a good team of people, and obviously at the moment that is a real challenge, which I think we'll probably talk about later. But investing in making sure you've got all the basics set up. So good photography, good video, a good base of stuff that you can be drawing from all year. So seasonal stuff. Have you got things from various events that you know are coming up that you do year in, year out? Have you got stuff for different themes of content, like original, not stock photography? Like, employ a decent photographer and get that. If you have the money to do that, then do that. And then also the same with video. All social channels now are pushing towards more and more video. It's just doesn't show any sign of letting up. To make sure you've got the right video content for you. Again, you don't need a massive budget for that. You can shoot on a smartphone, whatever you want. But if you have got more budget, that's something that I would probably spend it on.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I always find myself when I sort of record a personal video, if you put it on social media, it always gets 10 times the amount of engagement than if you stock photography. Time again, I've used stock photography, and you think, oh, I just need to keep publishing videos because that's what everyone wants. But they look rubbish. They're not really giving any sort of value or anything like that. I think so many people fall into that trap because either they feel like they've got to keep posting, or the manager keeps telling them, oh, you got to post every single day. I want to see 2 or 3 posts on there every single day. And it's a dangerous kind of cycle to fall into, I suppose.
And I'm not really sure you get that much out of that approach. I mean, it depends which channels you're using and which sector you're in, obviously. But I think that, like I said, there's a lot of noise on social media, and making the cut through is really difficult. So having a more strategic approach to it could make a real big difference. And like stock photography, just get scroll past. People look at it and think advert, and they'll scroll past it. If you make authentic, original content, people go, oh, what's this? I don't know what this is. And they want to know. But also, people have tiny attention spans, as we're always told. So you've got to be eye-catching in that sense.
What motivates you then in your job? Where do you find your inspiration and your creativity to do your job as well as you do?
I think that is a really difficult question. And obviously it goes in ebbs and flows of, I work much better when I'm very busy. If I've got a lot on my plate, I really focus and get things done. At times when you're not so busy, so we work with a lot of European brands, and so in August they basically take the entire month off in Europe. That's quite common. So it was a bit of a weird month for me, and so I would use that time to try and back up a lot of stuff that we haven't had a chance to do in the rest of the year. But in terms of what motivates me is I'm naturally a very creative person. I have always been quite a creative person. I've always wanted to write, and I'm interested in visual. I'm not an artist by any means, but I'm interested in that kind of world, and so trying to tap into that while also being part of a conversation, I think, is really interesting. And I really like that social media allows you to talk to anybody, really, anywhere in the world, and it's opened a lot of doors for people. I think it gets slagged off a lot. A lot of the time people will say blame. So I was something on the news today and they were saying it was the fault of social media. It's nearly daily that someone will say that. And I don't know that that's, I'm not saying that social media is innocent. Obviously, there's still a lot more work to do. And I know a lot of people describe it as being a bit like the Wild West at the moment. And maybe in 10, 15 years, we'll look back and go, God, why did we do that on social media? It's crazy. But I think that the amount of opportunities it opens up for people and the amount of positivity that comes out of that, you know, there's a lot of groups of people that get to meet online that would never have got to meet in person before. And there's a lot of people who come from different, I don't know, different sexualities or different backgrounds or just even different interests that can now connect online. And I think that's amazing. And And I love that. And I love to also hear the other side of the argument. I went through a phase of having my Twitter feed just be full of people that I completely agreed with. And then I just sort of thought, well, what's the point in that? There's no point in just constantly being, oh, yeah, it's right. And then I think that there were a couple of elections and the referendum and things like that where the result didn't go the way people thought they were, because they really were in their own echo chamber of not bothering to connect with the other side and figure out, well, actually, what do other people think? So now I try to have a slightly broader approach, which is hard because the algorithm wants you to talk to people that agree with you, basically. But yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting thing to work in, and it's a constant challenge. I sort of didn't start out, I mean, I couldn't have started out wanting to work in social media because it didn't exist, really. But I started off being an online writer. I wrote about fashion, and I even at uni did like a final project that was a website, which was quite revolutionary at the time. And so I always wanted to be involved in the sort of cutting edge of online. And then that sort of just developed into social media, and now you sort of get too far into something.
Yeah, definitely. It sort of goes back to your question, well, when you talked about sort of having a diverse team as well. I think it's so important now to have people who've got different ways of connecting with other people and understanding the audience, but they've also got to be interested in the job themselves. They've got to have some kind of motivation to do the job, otherwise the output's just not there. And I think time and again, when we sort of recruit for people, it's not just about what's on the CV, it's about the type of person, if you think they're going to fit within the team. So sort of going on that premise, I mean, what do you think are some of the biggest challenges are within recruitment?
Yeah, that's a huge thing. And at TUG, that's really important, that we really do have a great team of people who all get on, who all have a similar approach to things. And it's a really nice, friendly atmosphere. I joined in February, so just over 6 months ago now. And I've always thought that was a really positive thing, because trying to get people back into an office after 2 years of COVID is really tricky. But one of the main challenges, aside from the fact that people say there's like a skills shortage, I guess, and it's hard to find the right people, one of the personal challenges that I've had is recruiting graduates. So recruiting graduates comes with its own challenges, because you're looking for people that don't have any experience, really. I mean, you want them to be positive about social media and interested in it and engaged in it, but it's unlikely that they're going to have much experience in that area. And so one of the challenges has been that not only trying to find the right fit for our team and find someone that we think will get on with everyone and bring something new to the table as well, but also someone that's prepared to get stuck in and get involved. And I think that the last probably about 3 years now have really been difficult for people at uni, for graduates, because they haven't been able to go and get placements. They haven't been able to go and do internships because people literally haven't been in an office. And I guess the internships have been available online, but I don't know how much experience you would really get from joining a team on Zoom. So it's difficult to get someone that you know is going to come into an office and that is going to get stuck in and not get I don't know, too phased by that. It's a big step if you've never been into an office. A friend of mine is a lecturer for radiographers, and she's saying that you get people that have never had experience in a hospital who are 2 years into a radiography course, and then they go into a placement in a hospital and they hate it because they've never been in a hospital. I mean, they've been in a hospital as a patient, but never as someone who works there. And it's similar in a way to an office. If you've never been into an office and you've never worked in a team like that, it can be quite a big shock. And like when I was at uni, I interned a lot and I did quite different things because I wanted to get that experience, and I just don't think that's been an option to people. So when I've been interviewing graduates, I've found that they don't know how to behave in an interview. They don't know what it's like to work in an office. They don't know they haven't got much knowledge of how the industry works because they just haven't had the time to do that. And we have an amazing girl in our team now who joined earlier in the year, and she's been brilliant, but mainly because she's just been so open to saying, yeah, I'll give this a try. Yeah, she'll work with the SEO team sometimes, she'll work with the paid social team sometimes. And I think just having an open mind and being like, I've just got to get stuck into this. And I don't know whether she finds that challenging because it's such a new experience for her. But if she does, she doesn't complain about it. I think having that sort of attitude is really important when you're recruiting. And like you said, having different people within the team has been really important. I mean, some of the team were already established when I joined, but making the most of their skill set. I think being in social isn't always about being creative. You need the people that are going to analyze, who are going to report, who are going to I don't know, go off and do the assets, like do all the graphic design elements of it, whether that is a graphic designer or whether that's someone who's just passionate about it. And so it's bringing all those skills together that makes it successful, I think.
Yeah, definitely. It's yeah, there's so many different elements to the whole marketing mix, I think. You know, it's like me, I sort of do everything really.
Mm-hmm.
But you could have a paid SEO consultant, you could have a paid graphic designer, somebody who does the copywriting, somebody who sort of manages the whole process, like say videographer as well. There's so many different elements as well I sort of think of as, I suppose you've got to think what's more important, what you want out of as a company, what do you want to achieve? I think that is the burning question. I think so many companies are quick to draw, oh, we need someone who's going to work on social media. Let's just get that person in. But what do you actually want to achieve? And
yeah, absolutely. What do you want to achieve as a business as a whole? So not, what is your unique factor as a business? What makes you stand out from everyone else? And also sharing that on social. A lot of people come to your social channels as a first point of contact with your brand. They may never have been to your website. They may never have been in your store or your pub or whatever. So when you're writing on social, keep explaining to people what you do. They won't necessarily understand what you do. We're not, if you're Coca-Cola, well, everyone knows what Coca-Cola is, but most people don't know what something is. If I look at restaurants a lot on Instagram before I actually go to the restaurant. I'm sure I'm not alone in this habit. But make it clear what is your speciality in that restaurant. Yes, you need loads of photos of food, but what else do you do in that restaurant? What kind of food is it? When are you open? What's the best time to come? What's nearby? Like, it's a whole experience, and that's what people are really craving now post-COVID, is an experience. They don't want, they want a reason to leave the house. Everybody wants to leave the house and go off and do new things, but you really want to experience things. And so I think you need to use your social channels to get that across.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Well, thank you very much for your time, Laura. It's been much appreciated, very insightful.
No problem.
Yeah, I mean, I wish you luck for your next project. Have you got many things on the horizon at all, or?
I'm not sure what's going to happen next, but it's probably a bit too early to start moving on to anything else yet. But thank you so much. Hopefully I didn't waffle on too much and there's something useful that you can use in that conversation.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. See ya.
Bye.